friends. I have a book for us. It's called Stella LouElla's Runaway book. You guys, this is a fun book about community. Now, our communities feel a little bit different right now, right? Because some things in our communities have changed. They've changed because we can't go and do all of the things that we were doing just a few months ago. But in this story, we're going to see lots of people that we see in our own communities. And some of these people that we see in this book are actually essential workers that are going to work right now every day. So we're going to take a look in this book. And as we listen, think about, I wonder if any of them are essential workers. So again, this story is called Stella LouElla's Runaway book by Lisa Campbell Ernst. Stella LouElla's Runaway book. This first page, you guys, is super cool. There's Stella LouElla, and she's walking with her book, and she's walking through the library, and it's got endless shelves of books. Stella LouElla's Runaway book. On Saturday morning, Stella's library book disappeared as if in a magic act. Stella was in a tizzy. She ran through the house, searching frantically for the book, looking in the back of closets, on top of shelves and beds and baskets and bathtubs. She looked in toy boxes, tool boxes, even cereal boxes. The book was gone. "Great balls of fire," shouted Stella's father. "What is going on? My library book. It's disappeared," Stella cried. "It's due today by 5 o'clock. How will I ever tell Mrs. Graham at the library that I've lost it?" Stella burst into tears. "Simmer down," her father said. "Think, where did you last have it?" Stella squeezed her eyes closed and thought. "The hammock, out back," she gasped. Stella ran to the hammock with her father close behind. The book was not there. Her little brother Sam sat digging in the dirt below. "Sam," their dad said, "Stella's library book is missing. It's due today by 5 o'clock. Have you seen it?" "Yesterday," nodded Sam. "It was a good book. I liked the bears." "Where is it now?" asked Stella. "I left it on the front porch," Sam answered. "By the mailbox." Stella ran to the front porch with Sam and her father close behind. No book in sight. Just then Wally Hansen walked up. "Mr. Hansen," Sam called, "my sister's library is lost, and it has to get back to the library by 5 o'clock. Have you seen it?" "Ooh, that was yours," groaned Wally. "It was mixed up with the mail, and I wasn't sure where it came from. Good book, though. I especially liked the part about the walk." "Well, where is it now?" Stella asked anxiously. "I left it at the house on the corner," he said. "I thought it might belong to that little girl who lives there, Tiffany Ann." Stella ran to the corner house with Wally, Sam, and her father close behind. "Mrs. Graham will be furious with me," Stella said. Tiffany Ann was sitting on the steps combing her hair. "Tiffany Ann," called Wally, "we're looking for Stella's library book. It's due today by 5 o'clock. Did you find it?" "Oh, hey, great book," said Tiffany. "I loved the little girl." "Well, where is it?" begged Stella. "I thought it might have been reported missing," Tiffany Ann said. "So I gave it to Officer Tim when he walked by." Stella ran all the way to the police station with Tiffany Ann, Wally, Sam, and her father close behind. "Officer Tim! Officer Tim!" yelled Tiffany Ann. Do you still have that book I gave you? It's Stella's, and it absolutely must get to the library by 5 o'clock today. Negative, said Officer Tim. I was on my way to return it, but I stopped by Wanda Lynn's diner to apprehend a cup of coffee, and I accidentally left it there. Interesting book, though. A classic case of unlawful entry. Better check the premises to see if it is still there. Stella ran fast and furious to Wanda Lynn's diner with Officer Tim, Tiffany Ann, Wally, Sam, and her father close behind. Mrs. Graham won't let me check out another book ever again, Stella fretted. Wanda Lynn, barked Officer Tim. Have you seen a library book? Oh, yes, it was here just a minute ago, she said. I loved the part about the porch. But where is it now? Pleaded Stella. It's due today, by 5 o'clock. You know how Mrs. Graham hates late books. Sorry, honey lamb, Wanda Lynn said. I seem to remember Sal from the Fix-It shop picking it up. Stella ran pell-mell to Sal's Fix-It shop with Wanda Lynn, Officer Tim, Tiffany Ann, Wally, Sam, and her father close behind. Sal! Sal! Shouted Wanda Lynn. Where's that book you picked up? Stella must get it back to the library by 5 o'clock. Oh, riveting book, said Sal. Especially when the chair broke. Please, oh, please, begged Stella. Say you still have it. I'm afraid not, Sal said. Morty from the Bed Bazaar asked to borrow it. Stella ran to the Bed Bazaar with Sal, Wanda Lynn, Officer Tim, Tiffany Ann, Wally, Sam, and her father close behind. Morty, called Sal, we've got a problem. That book you borrowed is Stella's, and it's due today, no later than 5 o'clock. Morty shook his head. A baby carried it off not 10 minutes ago. We just might be able to catch her. She said it west on Elm Street with her mother. Oh, it was a terrific book, raved Morty as he joined the crowd. I loved the part about the beds. Stella moaned. Oh, Mrs. Graham is never going to believe this. Is this story starting to sound familiar? I wonder if you've thought of what book is missing. It's a familiar title, you guys. We've read it before. Stella ran west on Elm Street with Morty and Sal, Wanda Lynn, Officer Tim, Tiffany Ann, Wally, Sam, and her father close behind. It was now 3 o'clock. Stop! Stop! Shouted Morty when he saw the baby carriage up ahead. We need that book back. Stella's got to have it to the library by 5 o'clock. The mother turned around. Oh, I'm so sorry, dear, she said to Stella. It was a lovely book, especially the part about the nap. We gave it to a trustworthy troop of scouts headed south on Sycamore Street. Oh, what if I'm banned from the library, sobbed Stella. The baby began to cry too. Stella ran south on Sycamore Street with the baby, the mother, Morty and Sal, Wanda Lynn, Officer Tim, Tiffany Ann, Wally, Sam, and her father close behind. 2 blocks later, they spied the scouts. Hey, wait up, yelled the baby's mother. There's been a mistake. That library book, it's Stella's, and it's due today by 5 o'clock. The weary scouts were returning from a long nature walk We don't have it, said the exhausted scout leader. It was a good one, though, especially when the bears finally returned home, the scouts all nodded. We left it with Duff Morton. He stopped off at the park to work on his bug badge. Oh, I'm never going to get to read a library book again, whined Stella. Stella ran willy-nilly towards the park with the troop of scouts, the baby, the mother, Morty and Sal, Wanda Lynn, Officer Tim, Tiffany Ann, Wally, Sam, and her father close behind. But it was now 4:00. Duff! Quick, shouted the scout leader. Hand over that book. It has to get to the library by 5:00. Duff looked up from his magnifying glass. Aha, he said. Excellent book, especially when the bears discovered that girl. But I gave it to Mrs. Flynn, the gym teacher, when she ran by. She was headed north. Friends, do you think you know what book it is? Do you think you have thought of the title of the missing book? Stella ran north with Duff Morton, the troop of scouts, the baby, the mother, Morty and Sal, Wanda Lynn, Officer Tim, Tiffany Ann, Wally, Sam, and her father close behind. Stop, shouted Duff when he saw Miss Flynn was in sight. Stella has to return that library book that I gave you by 5:00. I don't have it, said Mrs. Flynn, still jogging. I loved the end, though. When that little girl ran through the forest, I left the book on the bench at the corner of 10th and Walnut. Maybe it's still there. I'll probably have to turn in my library card, sobbed Stella, still leading the way. She is worried she's going to be in big, huge trouble for losing this book. So Stella ran to the corner of 10th and Walnut with Mrs. Flynn, Duff Morton, the troop of scouts, the baby, the mother, Morty and Sal, Wanda Lynn, Officer Tim, Tiffany Ann, Wally, Sam, and her father close behind. But when they arrived there, the bench, it was empty. Everyone searched from top to bottom. Stella's book simply was not there. What they did discover, though, was that the bench at 10th and Walnut was smack dab in front of the library. It was 10 minutes till 5:00. I guess that's it, Stella said, choking back tears. It's gone. I might as well go in and confess to Mrs. Graham. She will never, ever forgive me. Stella now walked as slow as molasses into the library with, well, everyone close behind. She thought about turning around and running, but it was no use. Mrs. Graham would eventually track her down. Then all too soon, Stella was at the front desk. She couldn't bear to look at Mrs. Graham in the eye. Wonderful Mrs. Graham, who had story hour every Saturday. Wonderful Mrs. Graham, who always helped her find books. Wonderful Mrs. Graham, whom she was about to disappoint terribly. I've lost my library book, she said. I'm very sorry. Stella was trying not to cry. Mrs. Graham smiled mysteriously, pulling something out from under the counter. For some strange reason, she said, this book was on the bench outside. She said, "My book!" Stella yelled. You found it!" Joyful shouts burst from Stella's friends. And there was an excited buzz as everyone recalled their favorite parts again. Mrs. Graham agreed with them all. "What was your favorite part of the book?" Stella asked her. "Why, the same as with every book," she chuckled. "My favorite part is when someone reads it." So at 5 minutes till 5 o'clock, Mrs. Graham checked out a new book to Stella. And Miss Flynn, Duff Morton, the troop of scouts, the baby, the mother, Morty and Sal, Wanda Lynn, Officer Tim, Tiffany Ann, Wally, Sam, and her father were all close behind. Look, the beginning. Stella was the only one checking out the library book. Remember that? And now if you look, all of her friends were helping her. And now they all are checking out a library book. You guys, I love this story. I love this story because her community and her family, they help her to find the book, right? She has a problem and she's not left by herself to try to solve it. Her whole community helps her find her book. And they all work together because sometimes things are better when we have a group of people helping us out. So, friends, a couple things. Did you spy any essential workers in this book, Stella LouElla's Runaway book? I did, right? How many of you are still having somebody deliver your mail, right? We're getting mail. Yep, there's an essential worker. And I saw another one. Did you see any other ones? Do you remember Wanda Lynn? She had her diner. Yeah, Wanda Lynn is an essential worker, right? She is working to make food so people can come pick it up and take it home to eat because that's really important right now. So friends, in this book, we learned not just to keep track of our library books, right? Because we don't want those to be late because then other friends can't check them out. But we also learned that when you have a problem, asking your family to help you and asking your community to help you fix it is sometimes exactly what you need to do. So I love this story, Stella LouElla's Runaway book, but really curious before I say goodbye. Did anybody think of what book it was? Did you think of what book it was?
Did.
What do you think it was?
I think it was Goldilocks and the Three Bears.
Did you think it was that too? If you thought it was a Goldilocks and the Three Bears book, you're right. You're right. That is the book that they were looking for all over town. And there were clues through the story that if you were really doing careful listening, you might have thought, I think it's the Three Bears. Because it was the Three Bears. Stella LouElla lost the Three Bears, but they all worked together to find it. So I hope you loved the book today and have a great rest of your afternoon.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.